Skill check bosses are exactly how they sound, bosses that test your skill over the game mechanics. They're usually a mandatory boss, but sometimes they aren't. There's one boss that isn't mandatory technically, and yet it practically threw the gaming community into a frenzy a few years back. That boss is, of course, Margit the Fellowman. Apparently, a third of the player base didn't defeat the boss even after a whole month has passed. That is insane numbers. Now, there are plenty of skill check bosses in FromSoft because From Software is a game that is heavily reliant on skills, except for games like Demon Souls, which are majorly gimmick bosses. But games like Dark Souls 3, Elden Ring, and quite obviously Sekiro have a wide range of skill check bosses. In Dark Souls 3, the first skill check boss you come across is actually the tutorial boss, Iudex Gundyr. For some reason, they thought it was a good idea to place a relatively hard boss as the tutorial boss. He's not super difficult, but it's definitely throwing you into the deep end when you don't know how to swim. New players would get stuck on Iudex for hours, likely, and the same was obviously true for Margit the Fellowman. Margit is a boss that is so difficult for a number of reasons. One of them being his moveset is, for some reason, very slow as opposed to what most players are probably used to. They probably jumped straight at that knight on the horse at the start, and they got their ass kicked by fast movesets. And then if they're veteran players as well, they're used to fast movesets. So when they go over to Margit and get met with his delayed attacks, they're probably thrown off guard and they have to relearn how to play just a little bit. So he has relentless attacks and a shit ton of combos, and he's a two-phase boss. Uh, so he's quite obviously quite hard for one of the first bosses in the game for many reasons, and that's for a good reason, actually. Elden Ring did that so you would have to go back out into the open world. Margit is there to punish players that focused more on a linear progression and not their open world game design. And I actually love that. I usually hate skill check bosses for the sole reason I think they're pretty boring and useless in the most cases. But they did Margit so well because he's there to punish those that walked out onto the first step, look up, saw the Stormveil Castle, and are like, I'm going straight there. Or those that just followed the grace markers on the map. It's so you would also just go out, explore the open world on Torrent, and then come back when you got higher level gear or more levels or just a bit more skill. And I think they did that beautifully because it's no surprise that players that went out and explored just a bit more, whether it was over to Caelid and got their asses kicked, or down to the Weeping Peninsula and acquired a weapon or two, maybe the Morning Star, and then went to Margit next, would undoubtedly kick his ass. It wouldn't even be a fair fight. Margit is just there to punish players that went straight to him, which is probably why so many people complained when he first started kicking asses back when the game first came out, because it was absolutely lovely to hear. Honestly, everybody complaining about not being able to get past Margit, and those that actually explored a bit were already past Liurnia and probably already in the Atlas Plateau. I don't know. In the end, all I think I'm saying is that Margit the Fellowman is a skill check boss done right. Iudex isn't a bad one per se. He definitely does his job properly, but Margit is definitely the best one by far. I think he punishes those that literally play it like it's Dark Souls and not a open world experience, and I think that's amazing. So anyway, that's about it. Until next time.
Subscribe to Sleepy Soul.